Hello lovely people and welcome. Thank you so much for coming visiting my channel today. Today I am doing more work with fluid acrylics, but unlike the things I've been doing up till now, I'm trying to do a piece that is more representational. So I'm starting by putting in some blues, a couple of different shades of blue to approximate a sky. The paints have silicone in them, so I'm using that to just give a somewhat textured background. And I'm trying to use a couple of shades of blue. Not to exactly look like clouds or the different variations you see in a real sky, but just to give some interest to the background. And then at the bottom I'm putting in a little bit of green to give kind of a grassy foreground that I'm going to work with as I go forward. I added a little bit of white into the top of the sky and moved it around. Again, I'm not trying to go for exact clouds, I'm just trying to go for kind of an interesting background texture. From there, I started laying in some reds, oranges, and yellows, and I had some trouble with my paints. The paints are not fresh, and some of the the tips of the squeeze tubes are plugged, so I had to kind of go back and forth, and in some cases, instead of using the squeeze tube, what I did was I put a little puddle of paint down on my mat and used a little wooden stir stick to pick it up from that and put it onto the painting. So what I'm doing here is I'm putting down some brightly colored paints in little puddles. Again, I'm using some reds, some oranges, and some yellows, a couple of different shades of things, so trying to get a nice little mix. And then I'm taking the lid from a pill bottle and dipping it into the colors and pulling it back up, straight up, to try to mix them up and give them a little bit of a floral look. I'm not going for literal flowers of any particular real life species. I'm just going for kind of a bright floral look. And so I added paint and used the lid of the pill bottle to squish it down and pull it up until I got to something that I liked. And as you can see, these colors do have silicone in them as well, so they're beading in a nice way that gives texture and interest to the flowers. And then from there I went back to my little wooden stir stick and I'm just laying in paint to represent stems and leaves and grass, and I'm using a couple of different shades of green, and kind of I had to go back in and layer it because since it's fluid acrylics, they move around on the painting, and when you put in a thin line of paint like those stems, the colors around them tend to merge in and obscure that. So I had to go in and put down a couple of layers before they stayed, and adding a little more paint on top of them as I went. And I tried to do some little leaves, and the little the little leaves that happen right at the bottom of a bloom. There's usually a couple of little green leaves right there, kind of cupping the flower, and then going in, and again I'm reworking in layers as some of the paint disappeared and some doesn't, just to kind of make it look like a tangle of stems and leaves. And also going down into the bottom layer and adding shades of orange and pulling that up into the sky at the bottom so that you have a bit of a grassy texture. And as I said before, I'm not going for literal, I'm just going for the feeling more than anything else. And I just worked over and over with this for a while until I felt that I liked what I saw, and I felt that it wasn't going to change too much over the drying period. I did also go back in with some red in a bottle that has a little kind of metal fine tip to make the flowers have more shape, more defined shape up at the top. And here's where I start doing that. That will give them kind of this interesting look, kind of pulling the paint out from the flowers and adding little bits to make these sharp pointed petals, which I think worked pretty well. The paint did end up drying a lot darker than it looks here, and I put a little picture of the finished thing at the very end. And I think if I do this again at some point, I'm probably going to make the background blue a lot lighter, because the entire picture came off as a bit dark in the end. But it was a very interesting experience to try to make something that's a little more representational than what I've done before, and have it be interesting and still clearly abstract versions of the real life grass and flowers. So that was a lot of fun. I enjoyed doing this. So as always, please comment before if you like it, subscribe and hit the like button. Let me know what you think, and as always, take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and be well. So here's the final, and then I will show you what it looks like after it is dried and varnished. Here's the varnished version. Thank you so much. Take care. Bye-bye.